So I have another Call of Duty hot take that I really need to get off my chest, and that is Call of Duty doesn't have an identity problem because players are confused. It has an identity problem because Activision is confused. The community knows exactly what it wants. We've been screaming it for a decade. The formula worked, the foundation was there, but instead of refining that formula, they spent the last 10 years chasing every single trend in gaming that was not Call of Duty. And you see the cycle happen over and over again. A new fad comes along in gaming and Activision panics, new battle royale blows up, they throw everything into Warzone. Fortnite starts selling crossover skins and emotes, suddenly COD has to do the same thing and they want to collab with every brand on the planet. Apex introduces faster mobility and wall jumping, COD ramps up slide canceling and movement gimmicks. None of these ideas came from a natural evolution of Call of Duty's own identity. They came from fear of being outdated, fear of being left behind. And that's the problem. Call of Duty has been reacting to the market instead of leading it, and for a franchise that used to define gaming, that's a huge shift. COD wasn't the trendsetter. Back in the golden era, other games copied Call of Duty, not the other way around. Kill streaks, prestige system, fast-paced multiplayer, but now it feels like Call of Duty is constantly chasing whatever's hot, and in the process it's forgotten what made it special in the first place. And that brings me to a bigger point. Nostalgia is winning right now because modern gaming just feels hollow. It's not just COD, it's the entire industry. Look around. Every publisher is chasing engagement metrics instead of gameplay depth. Games aren't designed to be fun anymore. They're designed to be sticky. They want you logging in, grinding your battle pass, unlocking cosmetics, and coming back every day so their analytics look good. And COD has fallen right into that trap too. Problem is, Call of Duty used to be fun first and addicting second. Now it's addicting first and sometimes fun if you're lucky. Think about it. Back in the golden era, there wasn't this constant pressure to grind daily challenges or finish seasonal objectives. You played because you wanted to, not because you felt like you had to. The game rewarded you naturally just for showing up and having fun with your friends. You prestige, unlock gold camos, unlock diamond camo, mess around with friends in private lobbies, and half the time you didn't even realize how many hours you'd sunk in. Now everything feels transactional. Every reward is tied to a battle pass. Every operator skin is locked behind a bundle. Every blueprint is shoved in the store, and the result is that the game doesn't feel like a playground anymore. It feels like a shopping mall. And this is where innovation has completely failed Call of Duty. Instead of doubling down on what made the game addictive organically, progression, mastery, social systems, creative expression, they innovated by adding things people never asked for. Hero shooter specialists, unnecessary perk overhauls, weapon tunings that overcomplicated the quote meta weapons. It's like they're trying to reinvent Call of Duty into 6 different genres at once instead of just refining the one thing it's always been the best at, being a tight, fun, first-person shooter. And this brings up Warzone for a second because this is really where the crack started to show. Warzone is technically one of Call of Duty's biggest inventions ever, right? And yeah, it was successful. It brought in tens of millions of players. It dominated streaming and it became a household name. But at what cost? Warzone cannibalized the identity of the mainline Call of Duty games. It shifted every design decision away from the multiplayer decision that built the franchise in the first place. Weapon balancing got weird because of the gunsmith, and every gun had to work in both BR and 6v6. Maps started to feel rushed because resources were funneled into Warzone updates. Progression systems came battle royale first. And before long, the traditional Call of Duty multiplayer that people grew up with became an afterthought. That's the cost of chasing innovation. You dilute what made the game special until it feels like something entirely different. And this is kind of changing nowadays. They're starting to put a little bit more focus on the multiplayer, but people keep coming back to the same conclusions. The old systems worked better. That's why every time people bring up an old map, it does the best. That's why remastered throwbacks trend on TikTok and YouTube every time they drop. That's why to this day, people are still begging for a true Black Ops 2 remaster or classic zombies maps. The demand is right there in Activision's face, but instead of listening, they double down on reinventing systems that no one asked them to touch. Here's another example of why innovation in Call of Duty just doesn't work. Skill-based matchmaking. SBMM is not new, it's been around for years, believe it or not, but the way they've innovated it has completely changed the experience. Older CODs did have skill-based matchmaking, believe it or not, but it was subtle. You'd get into a mix of lobbies, some sweaty, some casual, some chaotic. Now, every single game feels like you're playing in the CDL finals. And the crazy part is, they're doubling down on this system despite the community's constant backlash because they think higher engagement equals better, like retention, but it's backwards. People are burnt out after years and quitting earlier and feeling punished for being good at the game. And this is where nostalgia hits hard. Back in the day, COD lobbies felt alive. You'd run into randoms, trash talk, make friends, and sometimes you drop 50 kills without sweating your hands through your controller. It was chaotic and fun because it wasn't over-engineered. Now the matchmaking systems are so forced on fairness and retention that they've stripped away the magic of those crazy, memorable Call of Duty moments that used to define the game. And you feel the effects of this across gaming as a whole. Innovation, as it's being done today, isn't about improving the player experience. It's about stretching engagement, making money, and you know what? Players are starting to notice. That's why we're seeing massive waves of nostalgia in gaming right now. It's not an accident that remakes, remasters, and retro-inspired shooters are dominating right now. Like Battlefield 6, for example. People are craving simplicity. They're craving games that respect their time instead of manipulating it. Call of Duty used to be that game. It used to be simple, but deep. Accessible but competitive. It had a perfect balance. Now every release feels bloated with pointless systems on top of pointless systems that nobody asked for. And the crazy part, Activision has all the data in the world to see that people want old systems back. The engagement spikes when they introduce classic maps or classic prestige or throwback events or the original unlock systems or these weapon prestige systems that are coming in Black Ops 7. The players are literally throwing them the path back to greatness, and they're just ignoring it because Activision is still stuck in this mindset that innovation sells when the opposite is true for Call of Duty. Refinement sells. Respect for the formula sells. Listening to your community sells, and that shows a lot, especially with Battlefield 6. People don't want Call of Duty to reinvent itself every 2 years. They want COD to feel like Call of Duty again. The Call of Duty they fell in love with. Just updated for today. That doesn't mean making the same game over and over again. It means evolving naturally, keeping the heart of the experience intact and adding layers on top of what works instead of tearing it apart. Until they figure that out, Call of Duty is just going to keep running in these circles. We've been getting experimental systems that nobody likes, rushed launches that feel unfinished and uncontent filled, and the innovations that sound good in a boardroom but fall flat in the real world. Every single time the players are going to go back to the old conversation. Remember how Call of Duty used to be? It's not nostalgia goggles. That's the reality of a franchise that had it perfect, then threw it away and still hasn't figured out why.